Before empires carved their names into stone, there were others, civilizations that rose, thrived, and vanished, often without a trace. They built massive cities, mastered technologies, and shaped history, yet they remain absent from most textbooks. Their ruins still stand, but their voices are long gone. These aren't myths or legends. They're real societies lost to time, erased by nature, war, or silence. These are the 10 forgotten civilizations history tried to bury. Let's begin where earthen pyramids once stood taller than anything in Europe. The Mississippians USA. In the heart of modern-day Illinois, the city of Cahokia once rose along the banks of the Mississippi River. At its peak, around 1100 AD, it was larger than London, home to 20,000 people and over 120 mounds. Earthen pyramids that functioned as temples, homes for leaders, and ceremonial platforms. The largest, Monk's Mound, still towers over the landscape at 100 feet tall. The Mississippians established vast trade networks across the continent, moving copper, seashells, and sacred stones thousands of miles. Yet they left behind no written language. By the 1400s, Cahokia was abandoned. Why? Theories range from environmental collapse and overpopulation to warfare and political unrest. Despite being North America's most complex prehistoric society, the Mississippians remain virtually unknown to the average American. Their civilization didn't just vanish, it was systematically forgotten. The mounds are still there, buried in suburbia, overlooked by highways and parking lots. Now, from pyramids of dirt to homes carved straight into stone. The Ancestral Puebloons USA. In the sandstone cliffs of the American Southwest, the Ancestral Puebloons, often called the Anasazi, built remarkable cities inside the rock. From 100 to 1300 AD, they raised multi-story structures with hundreds of rooms, without metal tools or beasts of burden. Places like Mesa Verde and Chaco Canyon weren't just homes, they were centers of ritual and trade. Chaco's layout aligned with solar and lunar events, showing a sophisticated grasp of astronomy. They engineered reservoirs, roads, and terraces in one of the harshest climates on the continent. But around the late 13th century, they left. Entire cities were abandoned. Why? Droughts, deforestation, or cultural shifts may have played a role. The silence is striking. The cliff dwellings still stand, silent and intact, but their stories aren't written down. Their descendants, like the Hopi and Zuni, preserve fragments, but the full picture is lost. This wasn't a collapse, it was a disappearance written in stone, now to a jungle where colossal heads guard the legacy of a culture with no name. The Olmecs, Mexico. Long before the Maya or Aztecs, the Olmecs thrived along the Gulf Coast of Mexico from 1500 to 400 BC. They left behind no pyramids or empires, but they did leave something unforgettable: massive stone heads, each carved from basalt. Some weighing over 20 tons, they display faces with helmets and enigmatic expressions. Transported without wheels or beasts of burden, these heads remain one of archaeology's great puzzles. The Olmecs developed early forms of writing, mathematics, and a ritual calendar that would later influence all of Mesoamerica. They played ceremonial ball games and built complex religious centers. And then they disappeared. Their cities, like La Venta and San Lorenzo, fell into decline. No one knows why. What's more baffling is that we don't even know what they called themselves. Their name, Olmec, was given centuries later by the Aztecs. With no surviving texts, their civilization lives on only through stone, soil, and silence. Next, we journey to Turkey, where a forgotten empire ruled with iron and law. The Hittites, Turkey. The Hittites weren't discovered through ruins, but through doubt. For centuries, they were only mentioned in Egyptian and biblical records. But in 1906, their lost capital Hattusa was unearthed in central Turkey. What followed stunned historians. These people had forged an empire rivaling Egypt around 1600 to 1200 BC. They developed iron tools, built fortified cities, and signed the world's first known peace treaty with Ramses II. Their language, preserved in cuneiform on clay tablets, revealed laws, myths, and complex diplomacy. Then they vanished. As the Bronze Age collapsed, so did the Hittites, possibly due to invasions by the mysterious sea peoples or internal strife. For centuries after, their cities were swallowed by earth. Today, massive walls, temple ruins, and thousands of tablets speak of a lost power that once ruled half of Anatolia. They were real, advanced, and entirely forgotten until we dug them out of myth. From a nation lost to invaders to a civilization we still can't read. The Indus Valley Civilization, Pakistan, India. From 2600 to 1900 BC, the Indus Valley Civilization flourished along the Indus River with cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. These cities featured grid layouts, public baths, multi-story homes, and sewage systems more advanced than anything seen in the West until Rome. But here's the twist. They had no palaces, no weapons, and no monuments to rulers. Their script, found on thousands of seals, remains undeciphered. Without readable records, everything we know is guesswork. What kind of government did they have? What gods did they worship? No one knows. Around 1900 BC, they began to vanish. Perhaps due to climate shifts, river changes, or economic decline. Their cities were abandoned, their systems forgotten, and their name, if they had one, lost to time. The Indus people were organized, peaceful, and shockingly modern, yet we can't even hear their voice. Now westward, to a civilization whose riches may have sparked a legend. The Tartesians, Spain. Along the southern coast of Spain, the Tartesians built a thriving culture between 1000 and 500 BC, mentioned by Greeks and Romans. They were famed for wealth, especially in silver, and were said to live near the mythical Pillars of Hercules. Tartessos, their capital, was a hub of trade with Phoenicians, and possibly the inspiration for Atlantis. They left behind inscriptions in an undeciphered script, gold artifacts, and evidence of complex urban planning. Then they vanished. Some blame Carthaginian invasion, others natural disasters. But after 500 BC, they disappeared from history. No one conquered them. They were simply gone. Spanish archaeologists have unearthed stone buildings, temples, and royal tombs, but not enough to explain their fate. Today, Tartessos is a mystery buried under vineyards and modern towns, rich in gold yet poor in answers. Next to prehistoric Europe, where fire was ritual and cities burned on purpose. The Cucoteni Trapilia culture, Romania between 5000 and 3000 BC. This mysterious Neolithic culture built some of Europe's earliest cities, many housing over 10,000 people. Located in present-day Ukraine, Moldova, and Romania, their settlements were circular, their pottery highly decorative, and their society seemingly matriarchal. But the strangest part? They routinely burned their entire cities to the ground every 60 to 80 years. No one knows why. It may have been ritual cleansing or part of a cyclical rebuilding tradition. Despite their scale, they left no written records. Their disappearance around 3000 BC remains unexplained. Perhaps nomadic invasions or ecological stress played a role. Today, all that remains are baked clay fragments, burned foundations, and spiraling patterns etched into ancient ceramics. Whispers from a society that deliberately erased itself over and over again. From spiral towns, we head to the mountains, where warriors vanished under Roman boots. The Dacians, Romania. Before Romania bore the Roman name, it was Dacia, a land of warriors and fortified cities nestled in the Carpathian Mountains. From 100 BC to 100 AD, the Dacians resisted Rome fiercely under King Decebalus. Their capital, Sarmizegetusa, featured sanctuaries, aqueducts, and paved roads, rare for the time. But after 2 brutal wars, Emperor Trajan conquered Dacia in 106 AD. The Romans dismantled cities, deported populations, and built their own capital over Dacian ruins. What followed was cultural erasure. Dacian writing, if it existed, has never been found. Their language vanished. What we know comes mostly from Roman accounts and carved depictions in Trajan's column. Yet their mountainous strongholds still stand, quiet and overgrown. The Dacians weren't just conquered, they were overwritten, and history barely remembers they were there. Now we sail into the heart of darkness, with enemies who left no name. The Sea Peoples, Eastern Mediterranean. Around 1200 BC, ancient civilizations across the Eastern Mediterranean collapsed almost simultaneously. Egypt, the Hittites, the Mycenaeans, and Ugarit all fell within decades. A likely cause? The Sea Peoples, a mysterious confederation of raiders who came by ship, destroyed cities, and disappeared just as quickly. Egyptian records describe brutal sea battles and burning cities, but the Sea Peoples themselves left no texts, no homeland, and no clear identity. Were they refugees, rebels, mercenaries turned rogue? No one knows. Their origin theories range from the Aegean to the Balkans. Whoever they were, their impact was catastrophic, plunging the region into a dark age. It's as if a ghost navy erased history and then sank without a trace. Of all the civilizations lost, they may be the ones who ended many others. These weren't myths. These were nations, cities, and people, forgotten not by accident, but by time, war, and silence. Their ruins still speak. The question is, are we still listening?